Hi, my name is Courtney Meyer, and today I'm going to be presenting my research project on recidivism. So in summary, I basically just researched what recidivism is in the United States. I also looked at different risk factors and things that have worked to reduce recidivism in the US. I also looked at different policies that have been implemented to help assist the reduction of recidivism rates. And then I also kind of just looked at and thought of some different amendments and revisions that could be made to then also assist in the reduction of recidivism rates. So starting off, what is recidivism? So recidivism is basically reoffending into prison or basically relapsing into criminal activity. So in other words, a person is arrested, placed in prison, and then after their sentence, they released from prison. Following their release from prison, they participate in some kind of criminal activity that then causes them to be rearrested and placed back into prison, and that is recidivating. So in the US, we have pretty high recidivism rates. We also hold the highest mass incarceration rate in terms of, oh my gosh, lost my word of process. Oh my gosh. We hold the highest mass incarceration rate in terms of developed countries in the world, which is crazy to say. So while I was doing my research for recidivism, I found this really interesting article that kind of proved wrong what I and probably a lot of you had previously heard of recidivism if you've done any research on it, which they basically, in this article, it was done by an author with the last name of Lockwood and a couple other authors, basically talked about how previous studies have shown that race has been said to be one of the major risk factors in terms of recidivism rates, but they say that race actually has nothing to do with recidivism rates, and they actually mentioned that employment is one of the largest risk factors for recidivism. So when I say employment, I mean when someone is released from prison, they have an extremely hard time getting a job or holding a job for an extended period of time. So obviously they can possibly participate in some kind of criminal activity that would then give them some kind of income to survive, because without a job, you don't have any money to survive, which is very crucial, of course. So then they participate in some kind of criminal activity to then provide them with some kind of income, and they sometimes are then arrested and then they recidivate. This, of course, is not the only risk factor in terms of recidivism. There's also the environmental factor. So, in other words, when someone is released from prison, if they're placed in an environment that has a significantly lower SES or socioeconomic status compared to someone who's placed in a higher socioeconomic status, that person in the lower socioeconomic status area and environment, they have a higher chance of recidivating. Also, if this area has high violence rates, high drug use, things like that can give them a higher chance of recidivating compared to someone who is placed in an environment with a high socioeconomic status, low violence rates, low drug usage, things like that. So obviously looking at our risk factors and what can we do to reduce recidivism, this doesn't give us the answer to eliminating or even just declining the rates of recidivism, but this allows us to look at different policies that could be implemented to assist in reducing recidivism and help implement policies that could then assist people in not recidivating. So in the US, the most recent policy that has been implemented is the First Step Act. This was signed in 2018. And a couple different pieces of the First Step Act that were pretty important was a program called Good Time Credit. So essentially, inmates can earn good time credit, and then they can earn their lowered sentence time, and they can be released earlier than before. This was shown right when it was signed, a lot of inmates were able to be released. I think it was 5,000 inmates were able to be released shortly after the passing of this law, which obviously assisted in the mass incarceration rate. Additionally, in terms of recidivism, the First Step Act had a couple different programs, like recidivism reduction programs. So within these programs, they help inmates get a hold of driver's license, birth certificates, social security cards. That would then further assist them when they are released from prison. They would be able to have a better chance at gaining a job and housing with those physical things. There's also different what's it called? Like trade programs that would also then assist them in landing a job when they are released from prison. So in terms of like amendments and revisions of these policies, recently there has been the creation of a task force for the First Step Act. So this is basically just a task force to monitor the success of the policy. And then additionally, actually this year, there has been the introduction of a new policy. This is called the First Step Act implementation of 2021. And this is essentially just a policy that helps to fix some of the conflicts and the holes in the First Step Act that can be fixed. So in summary, obviously recidivism isn't the simplest conflict that we can deal with. There's a lot of different risk factors and different systems that go into it to help reduce it. But I think that with these policies that are being implemented, these are great steps in reducing recidivism. And yeah, thank you for listening.